Hi guys, I'm just going to go through real quick your Crucible Act 2 essay. So it's longer than your first one. So I know some of you guys were freaking out. So I wanted to give you some suggestions for your paper. So once again, you just got done reading Act 2. And I want you to pick one of the following prompts. Now you can use evidence from Act 1 and 2 to do your prompt. So let's go ahead and first look at just the overall requirements for the paper, and then we'll tackle the prompts. So the requirement is 2 to 3 pages, Times New Roman, size 12, double spaced. I want you to submit it digitally to me. Okay, you have to allow me to comment because when I grade your paper, I'm going to grade it just like I'm explaining this paper here with Screencastify. So you need to make sure that you click share and you allow me to comment. This paper is going to be due next Wednesday, the 30th. So regardless if you're in class or not, you should share your paper with me Wednesday, the 30th, and I'll say by midnight. Okay, well, 11:59. All right, so first things first, you are going to need an introduction this time, okay? So when you're looking at that, I'm just going to add a comment here and remind you an introduction, and you've been doing this. You wrote 3 huge research papers last year. So an introduction should include a hook. It could be a quote from the story. It could be a definition of something, such as, and I'll give you some examples here in a little bit. It could be a stat. It could be kind of a question, but we try to get away from questions. But those are some examples of hooks. And then your intro should be about 5 sentences. So if your intro starts with a hook and it ends in your thesis statement, then that means that you are going to put together about 3 sentences that introduce your reader to your topic and what you're going to be talking about. So when we get up to the prompts, I'll give you some suggestions on that. So your introduction will have your hook and then 3 sentences that connect to your paper or background about the play, and then you'll have your thesis statement. What I noticed last time about thesis statements was they were a little bit all over the place. So if you want me to help you with your thesis statement, you can always email me or ask me. If you send me an example one, I'll help you with it. But I'll also give you some examples when I go through the prompts. Paragraph requirements. You need to have a topic sentence like always. You need to cite your evidence. So if you tell me that something happened in Act 1, you can paraphrase it, but then you need to use Miller and the page number to let me know that you're citing. And then I want you to further explain your citation. So if you choose prompt 2 about being cautious, paranoid, or hysterical, you might say that, Abigail is seen as hysterical in the deleted scene of Act 2 when she shows John Proctor that she has been stabbed by all of these people. Then you're going to cite it. Then you're going to explain it. This is an example of being hysterical because Abigail has talked herself in to being a victim when she is the one making other people victims. She is the one with the power. So you need to explain, you need to have your textual evidence, and then you need to further explain it, okay? So if you're not explaining your text evidence, if you just say, Abigail is hysterical because she stabs herself with needles in the leg. And then you go on. Another way she's hysterical is when you're not explaining your text evidence. You need to make sure you're doing that. And then you'll end your paper with a conclusion. Okay, so I'll just say here, your body paragraphs need to include an explanation after each citation, okay? And then your conclusion is just simply going to be 5 sentences again, right? Start by restating your thesis, right? And then you're just going to conclude your paper and end with a powerful punch, right? You want to end your conclusion with a sentence that's powerful, that speaks to the play, that speaks to the prompt. You could say something like, if it wasn't for those who were cautious, many people would have died. If it wasn't for those who were hysterical, many people might have lived. You want to make something powerful statement at the end of your conclusion. But both your intro and your conclusion should be 5 sentences each. So let's look at our prompts here. Analyze character development. Character development is the way a character moves and changes over the course of a story. So over the course of Act 1 and Act 2, we begin to see several characters undergo changes in their attitude, actions, reputation, status, views, and beliefs. Choose one character to analyze the development of this potential changes. Examine and explain how the character changes and how the development affects the plot in the first 2 acts. So, for example, Reverend Hale. Okay, right? He comes in to Reverend. Sorry, guys. Reverend Hale comes into Salem like a wide-eyed student. He is so excited, right, to find witches. By the end of Act 2, he is a broken man. By the end of Act 2, he is a broken man. Okay, so if you're going to talk about the change between Reverend Hale at the beginning of Act 1, I'm just doing a video. I am doing a video though. Sorry, guys. But if you were going to talk about the change in Reverend Hale from Act 1 to Act 2, then you may talk about how in Act 1, he is so excited to find witches. He does say that, there might not be any, but we know that he's looking for them. But over the course of the 2 acts, at first in Act 2, he's very prideful. He doesn't want to admit that this could be a lie. But by the end of Act 2, we have several examples from the book, including stage direction, that show us that he's ashamed, that he won't look at people, that he doesn't want to watch Elizabeth Proctor be chained. So he might be a good example of somebody who's changed over time. So then a thesis for him may be in the play, The Crucible by Arthur Miller, Reverend Hale's character changes tremendously from witch hunter to guilty party. Okay, so then that kind of thesis statement, then in your body paragraphs, you should tell me in the beginning, he's a witch hunter. He's so excited, and you'll give me examples from the book. Middle, he's feeling guilty. He's feeling a little proud. He doesn't want to admit that he's wrong. End of Act 2, we see him physically being ill and feeling badly for what he has done. Prompt 2. Analyze the essential question, what is the difference between cautious, paranoid, and hysterical behavior? In Acts 1 and 2, we begin to see a range of behaviors and emotions and actions displayed from our characters. Determine which characters show behaviors of caution, paranoia, and hysteria. Justify the reasoning for each character's behavior and explain the significance acting in this way in both Act 1 and Act 2. So suggestions, I feel like the cautious person in this situation, and this is just a suggestion, I don't want everybody to write this. Rebecca Nurse is our cautious gal, right? She's cautious. She talks about in Act 1, let them be children. They're just children. There's no witchcraft. I would say paranoid, 100% Reverend Paris. If I could spell Reverend, good grief. Reverend Paris is definitely paranoid. We have so many examples of that in Act 1 with him talking about how everybody's out to get him. And then I would say hysterical. You could say Abigail, right? Abigail, especially in the deleted scene. You could say Mrs. Putnam, right? Because she thinks that people are trying to kill her babies. So those are some good examples with lots of examples in the book that you're going to need to use and explain. Why is this hysterical? Why is this cautious? Why is this paranoid? And a thesis statement for this may be, in the play The Crucible by Arthur Miller, Rebecca Nurse is cautious. Reverend Paris is paranoid. And Abigail Williams is hysterical. Okay, so you could totally make that different, though. You could even say, like, in the play The Crucible, cautious, like in the play The Crucible, there is cautious, paranoid, and hysterical characters that change the course of the story. So it doesn't have to be that you actually list the people, but that's just a suggestion. And finally, analyze the essential question, how important is reputation and how can it be driving forces in an individual's life? Determine which character's reputation is most at stake in Act 2 and explain what the character's reputation is, if they hope to keep that same reputation or earn a new one, how the reputation is important to the character, etc., etc. Well, obviously, if we're talking reputation, you could argue that John Proctor's character, his reputation, is most at risk right now because he has to decide whether he's going to tell the truth about his affair. And we see that when he goes to her in the deleted scene. This might be a little more difficult, though, because we see that his reputation's at stake, but there's not a lot of examples in the book. A different one would be Abigail. Abigail Williams' reputation is most at stake, at risk. We see that because she talks about, like, Rebecca Nurse calling her loose. We see that when Reverend Paris questions her about her reputation and if it's white in the community. We know her reputation was not good at the beginning of the book because everybody kind of knew something happened with her and she was fired. So her reputation halfway through the play, though, is legit. Everybody's listening to her. So at the beginning of the play, it's kind of sketchy. By middle of the play, people are really listening to her. So you could even discuss that change in reputation. Another person whose reputation is very important is Reverend Paris's. He talks about his reputation. Community members talk about how much he sucks. John Proctor talks about how much he sucks as a minister, and he is obsessed with it. So you have a lot of different characters you could discuss there. So if I was going to divide out this paper, I would have my intro, and then I'd say, Reverend Paris's reputation in body paragraph 1. You tell me what his reputation is, and then a body paragraph about how he sees his reputation, and then a body paragraph about how other people see his reputation. So that's how you could divide out that one. Your big issues here are going to be how to divide out your paragraphs because your paper is 2 to 3 pages. So you have to decide, like with this cautious, paranoid, hysterical, that's easy. You have an intro, body paragraph cautious, body paragraph paranoid, body paragraph hysterical, conclusion. This last prompt might be a little bit more difficult. You might have to say reputation at the beginning of the play, change in reputation, how that has affected the play. Okay? So then your thesis for this could be in Arthur Miller's The Crucible, Reverend Paris's reputation changes is vital and his reputation is important and I don't know, that's a hard one. Reverend Paris's reputation is ever changing depending upon who is asked, right? Okay. So hopefully that's going to help you. I am more than willing to proofread anyone's paper that turns in their paper before the 30th of September. So I'm going to post this video to Google Classroom for you so you can watch it and get a little extra information out of it. And then you can ask me questions in class. So you should be working on this Wednesday when everyone's in SAT. If you have questions, let me know.